Hello friends, welcome back to Renito Challenges. Today we have traveled over 160 miles in car from Indiana to Mammoth Cave in Kentucky to explore Cleveland Avenue Tour. It seems there are different packages available like Domes and Dripstones Modified Tour, Extended Historic Modified Tour, Frozen Niagara Modified Tour, Gothic Avenue Modified Tour, Grand Avenue Modified Tour, Great Onyx Lantern Modified Tour, Historic Modified Tour, Mammoth Passage Modified Tour, River Styx Modified Tour, Violet City Lantern Modified Tour. Don't ask me what does modified mean, aha, because I also don't know. Reservation is one of the best way to ensure a spot for a tour, because most of the times tickets will be sold out. Come on, now let's explore the tour.
So it's like a mine shaft with stairs, and there's a couple hundred stairs. And when we get to the bottom of this sort of mine shaft with stairs, we're in the natural cave. And we're in a part of the cave that was at one time considered to be the end of the cave. And so, let's back up a little bit. 1816 rolls around, Mammoth Cave starts having cave tours. And they mostly are kind of just hanging around in the big upper passageways that are in the historic entrance. Some of you maybe have been in there and seen those big upper passageways. The part of the cave that gives us the name Mammoth. And up until 1838, they just kind of did that. But in 1838, the cave was sold, and the new owner brought a slave named Stephen Bishop to the cave, told him he was going to become a cave guide. And they taught him the routes, and he was a little bit more curious, and he began to crawl into the side passageways. And ultimately, within about 6 months of his arrival here, he changed the game completely. And what he did was he crossed Bottomless Pit. And no one else had ever dared to try to cross Bottomless Pit. They took one look and said, I'm going back this way. But he went beyond, and he discovered miles and miles of additional cave, which this is part of that. And it took him a couple years to discover the river and to cross the river and to continue to explore. But by July of 1841, they had found their way to Cleveland Avenue. And it was a remarkable discovery. And at that time, they began to say that the greatest parts of Mammoth Cave were the newly discovered parts, the things that were beyond the bottomless pit, the underground river, the Mammoth Dome, and the Cleveland Avenue. And so the old tour became the short tour, and people would go on the short tour, and it would just be 6 or 8 hours, and they would not cross Bottomless Pit. They wouldn't go across the river. They'd stay in all those big passageways. They'd go to Chief City, see the big room. But the long tour, and a lot of people, if you came here back then, it took you a long time to get here, so you didn't say, when's the next available tour? I need to be back on the highway. They stayed a few days. So they typically went on both the long and short tour so they could see, as much as they possibly could see. So the long tour would come across the river and come to Cleveland Avenue. And when we get to the bottom of the stairs here, that's kind of like where they turned around and went back. And Ralph Waldo Emerson did that in, I think, 1851. And Ralph Waldo Emerson said that he was 14 hours in the cave. It would have taken him approximately 7 hours to reach the point that we'll be at when we go down these stairs. So we've got easy access. secondary mineral passageway. Okay, passageway was already here, and then this grew on the wall, so it's a secondary mineral growth. And this is something that everybody kind of slide up a little bit further so those foam, don't you? The wall board is made out of gypsum. So it's a common mineral. You heard of, back in the day, the Mohs hardness scale of minerals? Gypsum is a 2 on that. So, very, very soft in terms of minerals.
Let me get it right there.
Just making sure we're following directions.
So I know some of you folks are shutterbugs. How would you describe that shape? What is that? It's for that shape. And phreatic, that's a fancy word, but you know what it means? It means below the ground. Everywhere we look.
What filled my head and see?
Yeah, entrance was there. I also got to below the
Careful.
Come on up here, folks, and take a look at this flower. Nice, really good looking flower. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
It's like something out of Alien. You see it? Right there.
That's a different sulfate mineral. Gypsum is calcium sulfate, but there's also magnesium sulfate, which is epsomite or Epsom salts, and there's sodium sulfate, which is mirabolite. And I can't tell which one is epsomite, which one is mirabolite. They both kind of look the same to me. Late at night, no one is around. Josh and I come down here and
Welcome, come first.
Interchanging certain things.
Last Rose of Summer. Last Rose of Summer was a poem that was set to music back in the 1800s. And it was a familiar song that many people knew. So one of the things they do in the cave is they always name things after. And that was before the internet and before television and before radio. And people were flowers. He was carrying the lantern. He couldn't see the tubular passage. Just see what was right around.
Hi, Razor. Hi. Stephen Bishop, who is the first explorer of Mammoth Cave, shows some 16 kilometers of cave passages. During his journey to discover Mammoth Cave, he used kerosene lamps, and you can feel how dark it is if light is off. Total distance of Cleveland Avenue tour spans around 2 miles. A approximately 2 hours and 30 minutes. Now we reached 1 mile of our journey in cave and have to walk back another 1 mile to end the tour.
That one's called Charlotte's Rose.
Oh my.
Which might make you ask the question, who is Charlotte? Stephen Bishop is the guy who discovered this passageway. He was a young African-American slave who did many of the discoveries at Mammoth Cave, and all you guys would have done the same thing, right? Absolutely. Or else. Charlotte Bishop and Stephen Bishop died. And then these people kind of wrote, you know, on top of it a little bit. And so Stephen would sometimes. I got mine.
Stephen Bishop began the naming tradition of the cave, using half homespun American, half classical terms, for example, the River Styx, the Snowball Room, Little Bad Avenue, Gorian's Dome. He discovered strange blind fish, silent crickets, along with centuries-old indigenous gypsum workings.
Picture of the cave. Back then, that was quite a task. And photography was fairly new. I don't know exactly when they first did that photography. It was kind of like in the 1840s. You know, you got to approach it a whole different way. They probably had flares, like, at the moment they were doing their exposure. Would say back in the old days, they said this looked like a lady's leg. A lot of what they did was they looked at shapes and rocks, patterns in the minerals. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote about being in Mammoth Cave. Google and read. It's pretty tough read. But the first This is a shortcut back to the stairs. Anybody want to take the shortcut?
No, I wouldn't. No.
Guess whose name you'll see on the wall back in there, because we're all in there. Previous
Yeah, sparkles.
A lot of sparkles. On some of the maps, it'll call this area right in here Charlotte's Grotto. See the sparkles the same way.
I still can't see them without the
White nose syndrome is the result of a fungus called Pseudogymnoascus destructans that invades and ingests the skin of hibernating bats, including their wings. It causes bats to wake up more frequently during the winter, using up their limited fat reserves very rapidly. White nose syndrome causing virus is widely available in Mammoth Cave. so we should walk on a biosecurity mat immediately after the end of the tour to avoid spread of this kind of fungus. The Green River Ferry is the only active river ferry in service at Mammoth Cave National Park. The Green River Ferry was first developed in 1934 and is the last remaining active river ferry in the park. The ferry shuttles vehicles, hikers and bikers across the Green River 364 days a year. This area is also a popular location for visitors to launch their boats, canoes and kayaks for a day out on the water. It provides shuttle service for vehicles, hikers and bikers from one side of the river to the other. It is also a link for community residents within the county to have an easier commute to local communities on the south side of the river.
How was the floating bridge?
Boring.
Boring.